We have an amazing Altcoin Buzz Alpha team, and they actually have some conflicting ideas and opinions as to how the stock market is going to perform for the rest of the year, 2024. And of course, consequently, how that will affect crypto markets. If you want to know our analysis and our research in real time, then of course you can sign up for Altcoin Buzz Alpha. But until then, and for now, let's take a look at a couple of different scenarios, both positive and negative, and consider how they would play out in terms of cryptocurrency. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest. Of course, I wish you very, very well. Just please remember that I'm not a financial or investment advisor, and that means that this video is not official financial or investment advice. So first of all, I think it's important to remember that while the correlation may not be super strong, there is a link between Bitcoin, broader cryptocurrency, and the US stock market. It's not a one-to-one correlation, but there is still a relationship there. And that is that often when one goes up, so too does the other. And then, of course, if Bitcoin does go up, there's a delay later on. Altcoins follow, but there is a time gap there. So let's first consider the scenario where we have a lot of positive growth in the stock market. If that's the case, as I just explained, based on that loose relationship, we're also going to see growth in crypto. And the global liquidity argument is the biggest one in this scenario. The idea here is actually pretty simple. As more central banks all around the world print more and more money in all kinds of various denominations, they will necessarily be adding liquidity to the market. Then that money has to go someplace, right? And so people find productive assets in which to invest. That is, generally speaking, bullish for stocks, but also for high-value real estate, for luxury collectibles, and for crypto. Here, investing is a need. They almost have to invest because these asset holders know that the money printer means inflation will eat more and more of that value of their money. So they need to look for investments that earn more than inflation would take. This kind of mentality is what's going to have people chasing after stocks and crypto, but not after things like bonds. And so if global liquidity continues its trend of growth, then that's bullish for the stock market and for crypto as well. The next scenario that we're considering is one in which the stock market grows, but crypto does not. This is an argument that's a little bit tougher to make and tougher to stomach as well, because if markets, and honestly more importantly, if institutional investors are starting to see crypto as a risk-on type of investment, the same way that they do stocks, then why would divergence like this take place? If I were to make the case for this scenario, and I'll do so here by playing devil's advocate, and I'll try to steelman this one, US economic data is a big factor. We know that the US is a big market for crypto, but there are also other big markets, especially in Asia. And India is actually first in terms of total number of crypto users. That's followed by China and then the US. India and China alone have over 150 million crypto users. And yeah, while their economy does have some dependence on the US economy, it's not a complete and total dependence. There's quasi-independence there. So, if you're following me so far, if the US economy does something like avoid recession or manage interest rate and monetary policy better, then it probably stands to reason that the US stock market would benefit much more than crypto markets would. Then, of course, the other major factor that could be positive for stocks, but not really for crypto, is the upcoming presidential election. It could happen really regardless of who wins, but it's probably more likely, the scenario is more likely, if Kamala Harris beats Trump, because broadly speaking, at least her policies and goals for the US government's interaction with crypto are more of an unknown. Maybe that's going to change, but at least for now, they are less defined. Here, for example, we're looking at two conflicting opinions that came out just a couple of days apart. And so the reality is that we just don't know what she will do if she wins. Let's now consider the scenario in which the stock market declines. This could happen for a number of reasons. For example, just normal price corrections, the introduction of an official recession, or other bad economic data. If this is the case, we have to ask ourselves, what happens next? So, there is a possible scenario where the US stock market declines, but crypto grows. It's probably less likely, but again, we're considering all the contingencies here. One way this could happen, again, a decline in the US stock market, but a growth in the crypto market, would be to see a huge jump in emerging market adoption. Vietnam, for example, has the second highest percentage of crypto users at 21% of its population. Then we also have the Philippines, Brazil, and Venezuela. All of these countries have between 10 and 13% in their population. These are very strong numbers. Here is something else to consider. If India alone got to 10% of its population, that would be 140 million users. That's 90 million more people in crypto markets, and that would be unbelievably bullish. And generally speaking, any kind of positive news about crypto coming out of India, China, or Russia would be bullish for the market. Russia, by the way, is already in talks to abandon the dollar and accept crypto for oil and gas payments. Now, there are some drawbacks to that. It's not without some disadvantages economically and maybe geopolitically speaking. But if we're strictly considering crypto and really simplifying this matter, well, I guess you'd have to say that is good for crypto. These kinds of events are bullish for crypto, but of course exclude US markets completely. So this is another way that the scenario could play out. Again, a decline in the US stock market, but growth in cryptocurrency. Okay, and then the last scenario that we want to consider is a decline in both markets, a decline in the US stock market and a decline in cryptocurrency. And the argument here is actually pretty easy. If liquidity leaves the system, then you probably already know what happens, right? We've already seen it for all of 2022 and a lot of 2023 in crypto markets. People sell or they get liquidated on their riskiest crypto trades first, and then the strongest collateral, Bitcoin, is sold later to fund the differences. In US markets, a recession would hurt both the stock market and crypto. Unexpected legislation or even really an unexpected outcome in the election could trigger a market decline as well. Also, a pretty big black swan event like a war or, God forbid, nuclear attack would mean both markets drop precipitously. Although even in that kind of worst case scenario, the result would likely only be temporary.
And so if this market pulls back hard under this level and then consolidates and comes back, we're likely to sell and stall.
So I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here in a second, but just before we finish up, you ought to know that we at Altcoin Buzz have started our own Discord server. It is totally free, and you can join our community and talk to each other, alpha members and members of the Altcoin Buzz team. Most of us are there. We're active. You can ask us whatever you want, our opinions, chat, whatever. Give it a try. There is a link in the description below. Okay, so really, if you break it down into these four scenarios, we've looked at the US stock market, the crypto market, and the combinations whereby one is doing well, one is doing poorly, and all the permutations. Which argument is the most compelling to you? In this space, I like to be personally cautiously optimistic. It's kind of like a camping mentality when you go out into the wilderness and you go hiking or camping or whatever it is you do. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff, and you always have to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And personally, I've always maintained a pretty similar strategy in terms of my activity in crypto. But that's just my point of view. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're preparing for and whether you're optimistic, whether you're a little bit more pessimistic in terms of the outlook here. I think a lot of it certainly does hinge on the US elections coming up, but let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below.